what makes solution focused coaching special to you? Take us a little bit through how you've kind of found it and what had you not just kind of do a training and then move on, but really devote a lot of your life energy and a lot of your work time to bringing this to people.
Well, yeah, that's a story. So I've always had a lifelong interest in people. And I've always had an interest in people because people can deceive each other. And I mean that in a good way. We hide things from each other. We're mysteries. And we're mysteries to ourselves, even. I mean, often do we say, I don't know why I just did that? What is the deeper motivation? And I was the type of kid who consistently annoyed everybody by asking them why they did what they did. I didn't mean it in a judgmental way, but I was really curious. I believe that that led me to taking psychology at university. And that's important because what I wasn't prepared for in retrospect was that at the time, this would be the late 80s, early 90s, at the time, the psychology that I was studying, as good as it was really good, but the focus had been on conclusions based on dysfunctional people. Very little of the research of the models were based on actually studying people who actually excel or just happy or are thriving. It was a bit of a pessimistic view. And my whole thing was what can inform happiness? I believe that happiness is a state of being that's available to us at all times, regardless of the consequence or the conditions that we're in. And I had this pivotal moment in university where the professor was talking about certain conditions and how we best assist them as psychologists. And a person asked a question I thought was fantastic and said, well, are you saying that if somebody comes in and they're quite unhappy and depressed, and we actually using what we know, what we're talking about here today, to make them step into happiness? And the professor stopped and he got really silent and took his glasses off, I think for dramatic effect. He said, the best we can do is to help people go from being dysfunctional, unhappy to at least being functional, but still unhappy. Right. And I just sat down in my chair in despair. That no, that can't be true. Right. But that was a pivotal moment because I decided in that moment, I don't know if it's conscious or unconscious, that I'm not going to believe that. And I'm going to find methods. I'm going to find approaches. So I finished my degree, but didn't go on to a master's. And I ended up moving to Vancouver and I started to research. I was reading books, mostly self-help. You'd find me in the self-help section of the bookstore all the time. And I started reading NLP, neuro linguistic programming books. And I didn't find them applicable, but I found the approach really interesting. Now I'm in Vancouver and looking through the little local self-development newspaper, there was this article, this advert, right? Solution focused methods, a introduction by Marilyn Atkinson. That's solution focused. Really like the sound of that, solution focused. How can that be? Because I was immersed in this idea that the way to live life is to isolate, identify, put all our attention on the problem and try to fix it. And then get rid of that one and go on to the next one, right? That's how I was raised. And that's the psychological approach that I was reading about. So I took this little training with Marilyn Atkinson. It was quite major. I asked that same question to Marilyn Atkinson that student in that professor's class asked. Those of you who know the Erickson Art and Center coaching, know this fantastic confidence building, personal development visualization process called the values based self image. And it's basically a mental rehearsal where you visualize yourself at your best in various situations. And she was talking about 21 days of this, and you will have all kinds of shifts in your mood and your state. And so I asked that question, right? Are you saying, Marilyn, that if somebody practices this mental rehearsal for at least 21 days, they can go from being unhappy to happy? And she just looked me right in the eye without any hesitation, no wavering, said, yes, Richard. And I said, no. I think I said it something else, a little bit more curse oriented, but this is a family channel. So, but she was great because she said, Richard, don't just believe me, try it. Find out for yourself. And I did. I was religious every morning doing this value-based self-image, visualizing myself at my best, right? And this is interesting because I wasn't visualizing a problem that I'm solving. I was just visualizing myself at my best in various contexts, some of them that were upcoming could be stressful. Well, after 2.5 weeks, it wasn't even 3 weeks, I noticed a shift in myself and that I was walking around the street feeling pretty good for no reason and smiling. And I knew that because people would be smiling back at me. And so I thought there's something to this. because of that moment and the results that I got from that simple thing, this was like 2 or 3 minutes of visualization at the most a day. I signed up for everything. Now, back to your question. At the time, now this is like 1998, 1999. I had never heard of coaching, but I knew I was looking for something that coaching is. I didn't know what it was. And so I was taking these courses. Marilyn had a number of courses she was training, and she kept talking about coaching, this thing called coaching. And I was skeptical. But again, I found a graduate of the Art and Science of Coaching. I had a coaching session, a free coaching session. I think it was like for their practicum. And here I am going in thinking, what problem am I going to talk about? What problem? This relationship problem. I'm single, and physical issue problem. I had a whole list, and my issue was, which problem are we going to focus on? I sat down, and her name was Jennifer, and she said, after the rapport building and then the chit chat, and I was relaxed, and she said, "So Richard, what do you want?" And that stunned me. That's absolutely stunned me. And I was like, what do you mean? What do I want? Long story short, she asked a number of solution focused questions that shifted my attention from the problem to the desired state. And I had assumed, and I think a lot of people do, that solution focused meant finding solutions to problems. No, it's shifting our attention at the area of the brains that are activated from what the problem is revealing in terms of the unwanted to the wanted. And in many cases, doesn't mean any solving. It just means creating, right? When I say in my bio that I'm assisting people to be the prime creative force in their own life, it's a shift from being a victim, I hate to use a very strong word, to actually actively deciding what they're going to create. So I was hooked. So in my case, I didn't shop around for other programs. That was enough for me. Those series of events were the convincers. And I ended up taking all the programs. I took the coach training 3 times, once as a participant, twice as a TA. And then I was asked if I would like to be a facilitator. And that happened, as you said, but I'm still here putting a lot of my work, life, and time and energy into the coaching. And broader than that, Erickson is a human development company. So it's, the other courses that lend themselves to developing ourselves as humans. But I do believe that Erickson is a leader of a solution-focused movement. We are so trained to focus on problems. We are so trained to talk about problems. We don't know we do it as much as we do, and it's quite a habit. It's really amazing to be able to make that shift into having a solution-focused mindset, a creative mindset.